Couple things here on the news coming in. One of them is pertaining to the incident that happened of the 8 people being stomped to death down in Houston, Texas. Let's watch it real quick.
All right, Miguel Almaguer, thank you. Tonight, disturbing new video emerging of the surging crowd at that Travis Scott performance in Houston, where 8 people died. The young victims ranging in age from 27 down to just 14 years old. And tonight, Houston's fire chief says Scott should have stopped the show once he saw what was happening in the crowd. Morgan Chesky is there.
Tonight, inside the deadly concert surge. This video conveys the desperate moments at Travis Scott's Astroworld Fest. Fans nearly buried under bodies. One appearing to dial 911.
This investigation will take some time because it is complicated.
In all, 8 concert goers died. Still unclear why did it take so long to stop the performance. Officials declaring a mass casualty event around 9:30 p.m. Scott did not stop performing until 10:10. During that time, video showed the crowd pleading for it to end. NBC's Savannah Guthrie asking Houston's fire chief if Travis Scott should have stopped the show when he saw what was happening.
Look, absolutely. Look, we all have a responsibility. Everybody in that at that event has a responsibility, starting from the artist on down.
The chief saying he was not prepared to say if Scott was fully aware of the situation or if he initiated it. Sources close to Astroworld tell NBC News Scott was not aware and, quote, once he was notified, he stopped the show. History shows Scott has prior safety issues. In 2015, the rapper pled guilty to reckless conduct after allegedly urging fans to jump barricades in Chicago. 2 years later, he pled guilty for disorderly conduct after allegedly encouraging fans to rush the stage at an Arkansas concert. For the families of victims, calls for justice growing louder. NBC News tracking more than 30 lawsuits filed.
It was a death trap.
The Blunt family now praying for 9-year-old Ezra, sitting on his dad Treston's shoulders. When the crowd squeezed so tight, Treston passed out.
The crowd just starts going crazy, and Treston goes, I can't breathe. And Treston passed out, and Ezra fell into the crowd. So he woke up in the crowd, and Ezra was gone.
He didn't know where his son was.
No.
Ezra's family found him in a hospital, suffering brain and organ damage so severe. Tonight, doctors have placed him in a medically induced coma.
Morgan, I know there's a criminal investigation underway, but now there are calls for more.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. I spoke to Lena Hidalgo, the top elected official here in Harris County, who wants a wide-ranging independent investigation to look at everything from the layout of this concert venue to potential safety flaws, all to hopefully prevent another tragedy from happening again. Lester.
All right, Morgan Chesky tonight, thank you. And today, the committee investigating the deadly attack in the U.S. Capitol subpoenaed more Trump officials for testimony. And
I'm going to stop right there before it goes any further on this. Whenever it comes to these outdoor concerts, it used to be that people had enough decency to know what to do and what not to do. Whenever the whole concept of human responsibility has changed to the point that it has become what it has become, your Jerry Springer audience and your Donald Trump audience, where people deliberately hype up the crowd, just like the music lyrics and how this guy has already been in trouble 2 or 3 times before, basically with safety issues. Whenever it comes to society, this individual talked about doing stuff differently the next time pertaining to a major concert venue. The only thing that's going to change the repercussions of the seriousness of the violence that goes on in these concerts is for the people to change. It's for their appetite to change. For the type of music to change. Anytime you got this type of aggressive music it makes people aggressive. Music is powerful. Music is known all over the world by doing various things for various ceremonies and dances and et cetera, et cetera. It hasn't been until just within the past, I guess, 30 years, pretty well nailing it. I mean, there may have been a little rap out there back years ago, but it didn't make the headlines like it has now because of the characteristic traits that goes along with the computer and because of the bad appetite that so many people have. There'll be more crucial incidences similar towards this one. And if the truth be known, it may not be the Capitol building, but if the truth be known, there'll be more people that will prey upon people that's trying to do the right thing towards enclosing them onto them, regardless whether it be the United States Capitol building or a state Capitol building or a courthouse in a local area. These younger generations does not care about the consequences involved in what they're doing. And I think they realize that they've been bamboozled, they've been hoodooed by the older generation pertaining to the one percenters, those that have grown in power and in strength just within the past 30 years. And until we see a difference in the people and a difference in the heart of the people, I'm just afraid that we're going to continue to see episodes like this, regrettably. Now, getting back on the liability issues. The man was told 45 minutes in advance before he shut down his shindig that there was something going on in the crowd and that he needed to stop. For some reason, the police did not intervene. At that point in time was whenever the police should have got on the stage and shut the show down once they realized that it had become disorderly. They did not do that. Why they did not do that, I don't know. But they had over 500 security police officers there in that concert, and somebody could have taken the initiative to have got on stage and took the microphone from the artist or the singer and said, we're going to have to stop the show. There's been an emergency that has occurred. Rather than just go on and on and on. So yeah, the people conducting the concert should be held responsible. But I personally believe that the people that was there, that was supposed to be protecting the people from it getting out of hand like this, should be held responsible. On up to the captain, because the captain had words with this guy a few days beforehand towards concerns, safety concerns, because once more, there was a pattern of safety concerns that followed this guy. And of course, now there's 8 dead. You know, you can put up barriers if you want to in these concerts, concrete barriers, but the thing about it is, people jump barriers. They jump through barriers. They can jump over a concrete barrier. So a concrete barrier ain't going to stop somebody that wants to go in front of the barrier. Fences maybe, but how many people wants to go to a concert looking through a hurricane cyclone fence, like you see right there on the back with all those memorial things on there? Don't nobody want to look at a concert, be at a concert venue, looking through fences towards separating the crowd, putting like 10,000 over here, and then 10,000 over here, and then 10,000 over here. And every time that you do that, you separate the crowd and you make sure, well, if it does get out of hand over here, it ain't going to affect these people that's in these other barriers. Don't nobody want to do that. That'd probably kill the concert industry if they do something like that. So the answer to this is not more security. The answer to this is not concrete barriers. The answer to this isn't people looking through hurricane fences just to be able to see their favorite person in concert. The answer to this is the corruption and the morale of the wickedness of the heart. And until the appetite changes, we're only going to see more incidences, not only like this one, but the one that they're fixing to show on January the 6th in the Capitol building. Whenever you have a dysfunctional government that has made this many mistakes, and now they're wanting to put the bulk of the burden up onto the people that had never even had to do with anything of a $30 trillion debt. Whenever you're having a government that cherry picks so badly, not only on the local perspective, but on the state and federal perspective, you have people that become disorderly. A bloody road ahead is what that the founder of the Windmill Ministries predicted in 2005 by sending the President of the United States, the 43rd president, a shirt that, I repeat, applied a dirty road ahead, a bloody road ahead, a dirty, bloody road ahead. You know what that costed me? 4 days in the psychiatric mental institution in Nashville, Tennessee, by, once more, Homeland Security, Secret Service. I'm dealing with idiots and have been dealing with idiots now for quite some times. And the bad thing about the idiots isn't just the common old Joe out there that's walking around that works in the labor force and wants to party in the party force. The idiots are the people that's held responsible pertaining to the court systems and the judicial systems. These are the idiots that has allowed for the system to get in this type of shape towards all this violence and being trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt and cherry picking towards who they're going to protect and who they're not going to protect and coming after people for doing basically nothing, stepping on a wooden nickel or whatever. The system is broken. And until we're willing to reconnect in refurbishing the system, just like it talks about in the first 3 chapters of Revelations, for I have not found thy works perfect yet, to go back and do thy first works over again. Until we do that, we're going to see a dirty, bloody road ahead. Let's watch this pertaining to January the 6th up here in the Capitol building. I'm seeing one agitated, disgraceful law enforcement moment right after another. You know, like I was saying a while ago, 500 policemen at this venue. And I don't think nobody has lost their job or been reprimanded yet for what has occurred, other than I'm picking a little bit towards the actual entertainer or the artist. How about all them people that busted into the Capitol building? Should the cops, the Capitol Police, should they be looked upon and instead of being heroes, zeros? Because they did allow for their protection to be breached. But yet now, we'll hear them get on national TV and reward people that should be penalized or reprimanded that don't have no business in patting them on the back and telling them what kind of good job that they've done. But then we'll punish the people that's trying to do good, that's actually trying to do good. The system is broken. The system is upside down in comparison to the way that I was taught as a young lad. You don't reward people for not doing their jobs. That's when you reprimand them. You punish them. You don't reward them. I have never seen such of a crazy atmosphere as what we're dealing with right here in the good old USA. Never have I ever thought that I would have seen this again and again and again. And the thing about it is, this isn't the first time that the venues have turned violent. They had violent behavior back in the 70s pertaining to the group called The Who. And there's been other problems pertaining to concerts and stuff. And if they're not actually getting brutal towards stepping on one another or shooting or stabbing one another, a lot of times they'll overdose, they'll OD in these concerts because they've taken entirely too much drugs. And the next thing you know, the ambulance has to be called out there to grab up a bunch of people and take them to the hospital room. Hopefully they'll save their lives, but sometimes they don't. And then you got all the traffic issues pertaining to people leaving out of an area all at one time. And it just creates a very, very unpleasant and to some degree a very, very unsafe, dirty atmosphere. And we're seeing the results from it right now on this particular show. Let's watch of what happened January the 6th.
To potential safety flaws, all to hopefully prevent another tragedy from happening again.
Good luck.
Lester.
All right, Morgan Chesky tonight, thank you. And today, the committee investigating the deadly attack in the U.S. Capitol subpoenaed more Trump officials for testimony and documents. They include former senior advisor Stephen Miller and former press secretary Kayleigh McEnany. A federal judge has rejected a new attempt by the former president to block the National Archives from sending records to the committee. The archives expected to turn them over on Friday. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, the prosecution rested its case in the murder trial of Kyle Rittenhouse after 5.5 days of testimony, but not before it showed new video of the shooting. Gabe Gutierrez is at the courthouse.
This new high-definition drone video, zoomed in and slowed down by a forensic imaging specialist, shows Kyle Rittenhouse wheeling around and shooting Joseph Rosenbaum at close range. It's unclear whether Rosenbaum was grabbing for Rittenhouse's gun or trying to swat it away.
Mr. Rosenbaum died from multiple gunshot wounds.
Today, jurors also saw a demonstration of Rittenhouse's AR-15 style rifle. The now 18-year-old killed 2 men and wounded a third during a night of unrest following the police shooting of Jacob Blake in August of 2020. Prosecutors have tried to portray Rittenhouse as an aggressor who was looking for trouble. But at times, especially during cross-examination, the witnesses bolstered Rittenhouse's claim of self-defense.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, then he fired, right?
Correct.
Some is what the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth.
Today, the defense called as its first witness a man who said he went to the protest that night at the request of the owners of a car dealership to protect the building. He says he saw Rittenhouse shortly after the shootings.
This is what our country is turning into. It's turning into the characteristics of a third world country. We have the politicians and the preachers to thank for this. They have sat back and they have preached a phony, watered down message to the point that now we're all going through what we're going through, either emotionally, psychologically, or physically, or spiritually, because of this type of behavior.
I just shot someone over and over, and I believe at some point he did say he had to shoot someone.
Also today, the judge dismissed one of the 7 charges against Rittenhouse, a curfew violation, after he determined the prosecution did not address it during its presentation. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thank you. In Louisville, Kentucky, the former police detective who lost his job for firing the shot that killed Breonna Taylor in that raid on her home is fighting to get his job back. Lawyers for Miles Cosgrove and the police department began to argue the case today before a merit board that will hear 4 more days of testimony. In just 60 seconds, teaching about race and inequality in schools, the red-hot issue, and the black high school principal in Texas who lost his job. And how to keep warm and save as home heating costs soar.
We're going forward here. We're going forward. We don't want to see none of this. I've done seen part of this. We'll continue on. This is about home cost. They claim it's going to rise probably 20%. So it's very essential that you make sure that you got all the doors and gaps and stuff
Post-traumatic
all fixed in your house, because the prices are going to go up. All right, what we're going to see here now is pertaining to Veterans Day, which is Thursday. That is a well-deserved, recognized holiday that ordinarily don't get this much attention, but the media has latched on to it, and I don't think that we can give them enough attention on Veterans Day pertaining to the sacrifices that's been made. That was the whole concept that David and I knew that needed to be done in this area of trying to school, teach, tutor various people that obviously didn't know what the signs of post-traumatic stress syndrome was pertaining to the abusiveness that went on in my family over a World War II drill sergeant. Either the people either didn't care or the people was taking pleasure in watching a family be abused. And only God knows the true motives and behind the reason why that they didn't do what they should have done. But they didn't do it. And there's been lots of other people out there that has suffered the hand pertaining to the scars of wars that didn't just happen to the actual people that was fighting in the trenches, but they brought that home. That aggression, that violence, that quick temper, that barbaric type behavior that they had been taught by their superiors to be what that they was in winning wars. There's no doubt we need men and women to help defend the freedoms of America. But where America has gone wrong, they did not come back when they come back in reforming these people properly, and did not diagnose them properly to the degree that they should have been put either on some sort of medication or they should have went through some sort of therapy. To bring this type of brutality to the lives of innocent men, women, and children, of the men and women that come back all banged up, bruised up, messed up either physically, emotionally, or all the above, for this country not to, I'm going to use the analogy, clean their own plate and throw that burden upon to thousands and thousands, if not millions of families that has suffered on account of the very thing that they're fixing to touch upon, post-traumatic stress syndrome. For a government to do that, I find it to be irresponsible, and I find it to be reckless endangerment on the aspect of carelessness upon to the professionals' behalf, because they knew that those men and women was coming back bruised up, banged up, messed up, and rather than address the problem, they swept it under the rug and they let their loved ones be burdened with the government's responsibilities. Please watch. And like I said a while ago, I salute the veterans to no end, because I feel like what that they have done has helped to establish a free, open, supposedly a fair democracy here in America and throughout other parts of the world pertaining to being able to vote in your politicians and vote out your politicians, etc. But I don't agree with what the government has done by not doing what they should have done during the time that they should have done it. And it's only now that it's beginning to take full circle, and it's only now that they're addressing the issue head on the way that they should be addressing the issue. Kind of like addressing the issue of all these Civil War monuments that stuck out in the eyes of any and everybody to see, that basically is people that's bragging openly, publicly, in front of the world that ain't ashamed of what went on during the Civil War. And I'm not saying that our history shouldn't be preserved, because history should be preserved, regardless whether it's American history or any other country's type history. History should be preserved, but history needs to be preserved in the right place that it needs to be preserved in, and which I think they call these places basically Yeah, museums. We put stuff like this in museums. That way, if you want to go to the museum to observe the history, and it's not stuck out on some corner somewhere, then that's up to the individual's right of whether or not he or she wants to go and observe the history. Let's watch.
This week, we're honoring our nation's veterans in our series, Those Who Serve. Tonight, the millions who have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. Cynthia McFadden on the intensive therapy that's working in Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta, and Boston, where veterans can receive life-altering, sometimes life-saving treatment.
Absolutely.
For nearly 15 years, Blair Morin served as a military medic, including on the front lines in Afghanistan.
Lost a lot of friends fighting for pieces of property.
He says the withdrawal was hard to watch.
The guys that I couldn't bring home, I carry them with me.
Still?
Still.
Blair himself suffered a traumatic brain injury and started experiencing PTSD. When you talked to your commanding officer, what did he say to you when you said you thought you might have PTSD?
I was actually told that PTSD is not a real thing. I felt like I was digging into a hole and I was yelling for help, and instead of throwing a rope, I had dirt kicked down on me.
At his lowest point, Blair says he got a glimmer of hope at a veterans fundraiser at Fenway Park.
Another veteran got up and he was telling his story. He actually said when he decided to reach out was when he had decided to take his own life. I was there.
You had had those thoughts too?
It was a step further. I had a plan.
Blair was about to become part of a staggering statistic: the 30,000 post-9/11 vets and service members who have died by suicide, 4 times the number who died in combat. But the vet who spoke at the fundraiser that day spoke about a sort of mental health boot camp, where it said veterans can get more hours of therapy in 2 weeks than they would in a year. It's at a place called Home Base, and it's free, funded by the Wounded Warrior Project and run by Mass General. Blair enrolled.
From morning to night, their job is to recover. Rather than waiting 7 more days for the next 15-minute session, they're able to apply in real time what they've learned for the life that lives outside of these 2 weeks.
Dr. Louis Chow is a clinical psychologist who helps run the program.
There is this incredibly powerful belief that I didn't do enough, I failed, I should have done more. And that gets echoed hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of times.
That was the case for Sergio Alfaro, an Iraq veteran who came to Home Base 5 years ago. Sergio was admitted to Harvard Medical School when he got home, but his PTSD got in the way.
It's like all these things that everybody is able to do made me start thinking about these very disturbing things that happened over there. You know, either incoming, mortar explosions or RPGs blowing up. I think that's one of the best things about the group therapy was the fact that I was able to engage with other veterans to kind of see what they were going through, to not feel so alone.
What do you think life would have been like if you hadn't found your way here? Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
I wouldn't be alive right now.
Blair said the same.
I'd be huddled up in my basement, avoiding life. My children wouldn't have a father. My wife would be a single mother. Worst case, I just wouldn't be here.
His advice for other veterans who are struggling right now?
You didn't do this alone in the military. You're not doing it alone now. Reach out.
Cynthia McFadden, NBC News, Boston.
And what adds insult to misery is the way that our government, high-ranking officials, ordered without a proper withdrawal in laying it out properly to the point that they not only could have gotten everybody out of there, out of Afghanistan, but they could have and should have completely destroyed the equipment that was over there to make sure that it's not used one day against us. So to add insult to misery, this is what our soldiers has to face that wound up going through excruciating events. Some of them probably had to shoot and kill children. Some of them was being shot, and some of them got killed, our American soldiers, by children. They have all these memories of all the close encounters of death that they experienced in trying to reform a country over there with metal against metal, iron against iron. And whenever they look at the news and see where in less than 11 days or around 11 days, the Taliban takes complete control over that very country that they fought in for 20 plus years. What do you think, as a viewing audience, that does psychologically and emotionally to people like this? It was a slap in the face of what our government done and how it done it pertaining to the 20-year long Afghanistan war. It was almost as disrespectful, or maybe even worse, than the Vietnam War. The system is broken. The people that's in the government, from the lawyers to the judges, to the politicians, to the Congress, to the Senate, to the President of the United States, the system is broken. And to think that they're still willing to throw this burden upon to innocent citizens here in America by saying, okay, we're $30+ trillion, are going to be $30+ trillion in debt. We're going to pass that down to your children. That way, they already are doomed, shot out of the saddle before they ever get out of the gate. This is what that resistance movement has costed, beginning with the latter part of the Reagan administration, the beginning part of Walter Bush Sr.'s administration, of the churches not and the politicians not doing the proper right thing here in America. This is what this has costed, in addition to all the other chaos. Madness, as far as I'm concerned. January the 6th was madness. The concert that just happened in Houston was total madness. Different shooters pertaining to gang violence and people going on rampages and killing masses amount of people. It's insanity, and it's the work of the devil. And the work of the devil didn't just begin yesterday. It just didn't begin the week before last pertaining to the last shooting or the last suicide or the last event that somebody decided to go crazy on. This started at the core when 9 tapes wound up in the White House and Mr. Reagan finally succeeded in convincing the superpowers that the world was not going to be ended by man, but it was going to be ended by God, pertaining to the prophecies coming out of the Bible. They finally got the Berlin Wall to fall, but then turned right around and ate those words and went to war and went to war and went to war like a bunch of warmongers that now has caused chaos in not just a few people's lives, but millions of people's lives. Good luck to all of us as we end our program all the time at the Windmill Ministries. We want to thank our veterans pertaining to, at heart, what their intent was towards trying to fight for democracy and the freedom fighters that has fought all over this planet, not only past tensively, but also in the future. We want to thank them from the bottom of our hearts, knowing that it was not their faults of how things ended in Afghanistan, just like it wasn't their faults towards how things ended in Vietnam. It wasn't our faults, the reason why that we're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt and our infrastructure is falling apart. It's not our faults, but the people that is at fault still has yet to come clean and to make things right with people not only like this, but in common, everyday, innocent bystanders that are being burdened either emotionally, physically, or financially by everything that's going on. It goes beyond a disgrace. It's appalling. Good luck to all of us, and shalom. So sad.
We'll take a break. Up next, from tragedy to joy, a reunion you won't want to miss.
Welcome to the lifestyles of the smart and savvy.